In the early days of professional football, monsters walked the gridiron, but none loomed larger than Cal Hubbard. 6'5", 265 pounds of Missouri farm muscle, playing every snap on both sides when the average man weighed barely 190. He shattered offenses, anchored legendary defenses, then broke the mold by doing it all again on baseball's biggest stage. Today, with rosters of 53 and specialization ruling every snap, there will never be another Cal Hubbard. His story isn't just about dominance. It's about how the game itself had to change, so nobody like him could ever exist again. So how does a small-town giant become a living legend the modern NFL can't even imagine? Cal Hubbard was born on Halloween, 1900, in a farmhouse just outside Keytesville, Missouri. His world was chores before sunrise, fields that stretched for miles, and work that built muscle the hard way. By 14, he was already tipping the scales at nearly 200 pounds, outweighing grown men in town, and outworking most of them too. Neighbors told stories of Cal clearing tree stumps solo, wrestling livestock, and still being first to the breakfast table. He wasn't just big for his age. He was big for any age, especially in a rural America where size meant survival. Football wasn't even an option in Keytesville High. That didn't stop him. Cal transferred to Glasgow High for a single year just to get on a field, then moved on to Chillicothe Business College, chasing any shot at competition. The farm had given him power and grit, but it was football that gave him purpose. Coaches took notice fast. By the time he landed at Centenary College in Louisiana, his reputation arrived ahead of him. 6'5", 265 pounds by his early 20s. He looked like he'd been carved out of the local limestone. On Saturdays, Hubbard lined up at tackle and made entire offensive lines vanish. The 1925 Centenary versus Texas A&M game made his legend. Newspaper accounts called him a one-man wrecking crew. Play after play, number 36 knifed through the Aggie line, drawing double teams, making tackles for loss, and leaving battered runners in his wake. Opponents started every snap with one question: how do you move a mountain? Coaches like Bo McMillan called him the most dominant force they'd ever seen. By the time pro scouts came sniffing around, Cal Hubbard was already more than just the biggest man on the field. He was the standard every lineman would chase, and none would catch. Cal Hubbard stepped onto the field for the New York Giants in 1927, and the league had never seen anything like him. At 6'5" and 265 pounds, he was a human avalanche, fast enough to chase down backs, strong enough to shove two blockers into the backfield at once. Most linemen in the NFL barely cracked 200 pounds. Hubbard looked like he belonged in a different sport, or maybe a different century. But size was only the beginning. He didn't just play tackle, he played everywhere. Offense, defense, special teams. 60 minutes, no breaks, no questions. The Giants' defense that year became a wall. 10 shutouts in 13 games. Only 20 points allowed the entire season, a record that still baffles modern fans. Coaches started calling him the roving tackle. He'd line up on the edge, then drop back and plug a hole, or blitz through the line before the snap even finished echoing. He wasn't just a lineman. He was inventing a new way to play defense, freelancing in space, while everyone else was chained to their spot. Opposing coaches drew up entire game plans just to avoid him. It rarely worked. Every play, Hubbard was there, collapsing pockets, blowing up sweeps, chasing down runners in the flat. The Giants rode that defense all the way to the NFL title. In a league still figuring out what football could be, Hubbard made his own rules. By the end of his rookie year, every team in the league knew his name. Every coach wanted a Cal Hubbard. There was only one. 60 minutes. That was the expectation, not the exception. In the late 1920s, NFL rosters barely stretched to 18 men. If you were on the field, you stayed there. Offense, defense, special teams, every snap. Cal Hubbard thrived in that world because he was built for it. forged by the kind of work that didn't end when the sun went down. His training ground wasn't a gym. It was a Missouri farm, where sunrise meant chores, and every task demanded real strength. Hauling hay, splitting fence posts, wrestling stubborn cattle, those weren't drills. They were daily life. By the time he put on a Giants uniform, he'd already built the kind of stamina you couldn't fake. On game days, Hubbard didn't just outmuscle opponents, he outlasted them. While most linemen faded by halftime, he seemed to gather power as the clock ticked down. He played with a low pad level, hands always in motion, legs driving through every block. His technique was simple, but relentless. Keep your feet moving, keep your leverage, never let your man breathe. He'd pull from tackle to lead a sweep, then turn around and crash through the line on defense, chasing runners sideline to sideline. No substitutions, no hiding. The Giants coaches marveled at his endurance. Opposing players called him a machine, but there was no secret, just farm-bred lungs and a will that refused to crack. In an era before protein shakes or weight rooms, Hubbard's body was the product of necessity. He didn't train for football, he trained for life, and football just happened to be the next challenge. That Iron Man stamina would soon find a new home, far from the city lights, in a place where the game was as raw as the man himself. July 1929. Cal Hubbard packed his bags and left the noise of New York behind. The Giants had just sold his contract to the Green Bay Packers, a cash deal. No players swapped, no headlines about blockbuster trades. Just a quiet transaction that would change the NFL's balance of power. Hubbard had never fit the city. He missed the open air, the familiar faces, the kind of place where a handshake still meant something. When the Giants visited Green Bay the year before, Hubbard saw a town that looked a lot like home. He told management he'd rather retire than spend another season in the city. The Packers saw their chance and moved fast. On July 31st, 1929, the deal became official. Hubbard was heading north. Green Bay wasn't just another stop. It was the perfect fit. Coach Curly Lambeau ran his team like a family business, with practices on the edge of cornfields and meetings in the back room of a hardware store. Hubbard's size and strength gave the Packers a weapon nobody else had, but it was his attitude that sealed it. He wanted teammates who cared as much about the game as he did. Coaches who demanded toughness, but knew every man by name. In Green Bay, football was community, not just spectacle. The moment Hubbard arrived, the Packers' locker room got louder, the practices got tougher, and the championship dreams got real. That summer, a small-town giant found his small-town team. The rest of the league felt the ground shake. By the fall of 1929, Cal Hubbard was right where he belonged. Green Bay, Wisconsin, a town ready to crown champions. That season, the Packers didn't just win, they steamrolled. Hubbard anchored both lines, clearing paths for Vern Llewellyn and Johnny Blood, then turning around and flattening ball carriers on defense. The Packers didn't lose a single game. 11 wins, 3 ties, and not a single opponent cracked double digits on the scoreboard. When it came time to face the Giants for the title, Hubbard's old teammates found no room to run. Newspapermen wrote, "Hubbard is everywhere. The Giants cannot escape him." 1930 brought the Bears, the league's toughest rivalry. Every snap was a collision. Every drive, a test of will. In the season's biggest game, Hubbard pulled from tackle to lead a sweep, pancaking Chicago's end and springing a 25-yard run that set up the winning score. On defense, he chased down punt returners, blocked an extra point to preserve a 1-point lead, and played all 60 minutes. No substitutions, no rest. Just Iron Man football, the way only Hubbard could play it. Then came 1931. The Packers were hunting a three-peat, a feat no NFL team had ever pulled off. In December, with the title on the line, Hubbard and Ernie Smith crashed through the Bears' line, forcing a safety that turned the game. 3 straight championships, 3 years of dominance. In Green Bay, they called him the heart of a dynasty. Across the league, teams started measuring themselves against the Packers. But in those years, everyone knew the truth. As long as Cal Hubbard was on the field, the road to the title ran straight through him. Inside the Packers locker room, Cal Hubbard's presence was more than just size and power. He set the tone before the first whistle even blew. Younger linemen watched how he wrapped his wrists, how he laced up his battered boots, how he sized up every opponent like they were just another stubborn tree stump back on the farm. But it was what happened after practice that stuck with them. Hubbard would grab a rookie by the shoulder, drag him to the chalkboard, and start breaking down the secrets of leverage. He'd show them how to keep a low pad level, how to use your hands like hooks, not hammers. Don't just hit a man, he'd say, move him, control his hips, and you control the play. He wasn't loud about it, but when he spoke, even the veterans listened. Hubbard had a way of making the complex look simple. He'd demonstrate the earhole grip, a trick for slipping past blockers that turned would-be defenders into spectators. Teammates swore he could teach a man to get lower, play smarter, and last longer, just by watching him work. When the Packers faced the Bears or the Giants, it was Hubbard who rallied the line, called out adjustments, and kept heads cool in the ugliest scrums. He could joke with a backup, then turn serious in a heartbeat, reminding everyone that respect was earned on every snap. He built more than a dynasty. He built linemen. And when the game was over, it was the lessons in technique, grit, and pride that stuck with his protégés long after the bruises faded. Baseball's summer grind called for a different kind of toughness, and Cal Hubbard answered. By 1932, after the football season wrapped, he was already working his way up the minor league umpiring ladder. First in the Cotton States League, then the 3I League, always moving up before anyone else could catch their breath. Hubbard didn't just bring size to the job. He brought a presence that settled ballparks. Players jawed less. Managers thought twice before storming out of the dugout. In the American Association by 1934, he was already drawing letters of praise from club owners and league officials. They said he called games with mountain calm and a voice that filled the park. Travel wasn't glamorous. Hubbard bounced from city to city by train, chasing games across the Midwest, sometimes arriving hours after an NFL contest. He memorized railroad timetables, kept a battered rulebook in his bag, and never missed an assignment. By the end of 1935, American League executives were watching closely. They saw a man who could handle chaos, who never lost his cool even when the crowd roared. In 1936, Cal Hubbard made his debut as a full-time American League umpire. Just like on the gridiron, he earned respect the hard way. One call, one game, one relentless summer at a time. June 16, 1946. Detroit Tigers at Fenway Park. Ted Williams, the splendid splinter, steps to the plate. Already a living legend. Already the most feared hitter in baseball. Cal Hubbard, now behind the plate, towers in his umpire's gear, every bit as imposing as he was on the gridiron. First inning, Williams' second at-bat. Strike one called. Williams scowls. Strike two, swinging. The crowd buzzes. Boston expects fireworks. Then comes strike three, a pitch Williams thinks missed by a mile. Williams snaps, barking, "That pitch was outside by a foot." Hubbard doesn't blink. "It was right down the middle, Ted. You're out." Williams, never one to back down, lets another complaint fly. Hubbard gives him one warning, then tosses him, just like that. Ejected in the first inning, $25 lighter, Williams storms off, the Fenway crowd stunned silent. Reporters swarm the dugout. Williams admits, "I lost my head, but Cal's strike zone was way off that day." Hubbard, calm as ever, just enforces the rules. No one bullies Cal Hubbard, not even Ted Williams. Years later, Williams would admit it. Cal never got bullied, not even by me. That day, in front of a packed house, Hubbard showed baseball's biggest ego that nobody stood taller than the umpire with a Hall of Fame backbone. 2 Hall of Fame plaques, one in Canton, one in Cooperstown. No athlete before or since has pulled off that double. Cal Hubbard stands alone, not just because of what he did, but because of when he did it. The Pro Football Hall of Fame called his name in 1963. First ballot, no debate. 13 years later, the Baseball Hall of Fame followed, honoring him as the rare umpire whose authority matched his legend on the field. That's a one-man club, and it's not accepting new members. Modern football doesn't even allow the kind of career Hubbard built. Today's NFL rosters are 53 men deep, with specialists for every position, every situation. The average offensive lineman now weighs over 315 pounds, bigger than Hubbard, but not built to play both ways. Every snap, every week. Training is year-round. Off-seasons are for film study and weight rooms, not for moonlighting as a baseball umpire. The days of a two-way giant pulling double duty in 2 sports are gone, erased by science, money, and the business of modern football. Hubbard's double enshrinement isn't just a record. It's a monument to a vanished era, when one man could anchor a dynasty on Sunday and call balls and strikes by summer. In a world of specialists, Cal Hubbard is the last true original. Cal Hubbard remains the only person ever inducted into both the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1963 and the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1976, a distinction no athlete has matched in nearly a century. His journey from a 265-pound farm boy in Keatsville, Missouri, to anchoring 3 consecutive NFL championships for the Packers, and later umpiring 4 World Series, is documented in team rosters, game footage, and Hall of Fame records. While detailed play-by-play statistics from the 1920s and 30s are incomplete, the facts confirm Hubbard's 60-minute dominance on both sides of the ball, a feat made impossible by today's 53-man NFL rosters and position specialization. What remains unknown is how Hubbard's approach to training and leadership would have translated in the modern era, but the evidence is clear. The structural changes in both football and baseball ensure his dual legacy stands alone. In a league once filled with iron men, only Cal Hubbard carved a path that history cannot repeat.